Alright, so let's do a little review of the 2001 Mr. Olympia with reference to Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler at that contest. This was a little bit of a contested contest, so I'll just try to go over some of the pictures and see who wins each shot, and maybe we'll get a better idea of why Ronnie Coleman won, or maybe not. Let's check it out. So front lat spread, both of them were weighing about 265 pounds, which is funny because Ronnie is 2 inches taller than Jay. It's hard to say in terms of the weight. Whether or not Jay was 265, I don't know. It might have been something close to that. It might have been that the weigh-in they were both at, but then that shifted a little bit by the time of the contest. In this pose, I don't know. Ronnie has the smaller waist, I would say, for sure here. At least it appears like that. I would think that Ronnie is around as wide as Jay, or at least, or seemingly in the same ballpark. And based on the striations in Ronnie's chest and also the hardness of his delts and arms, I would think that there's some advantage that goes to Ronnie. If you compare arm size, it's definitely Ronnie for sure. Jay Cutler for sure has, I guess, is in better shape in some ways. For example, his abs. That's one thing for sure. So yeah, Ronnie is looking good, but so is Jay. It's a good shot for both of them. That's Jay Cutler standalone in the front lat spread, and he looks good and in condition. His arms were never really his strong point in terms of conditioning or vascularity or anything like that. He doesn't have anything that makes his arms stand out. In terms of size, Jay's arms were, I would say, a pretty good point for his, but they never were in the same condition or had the impressiveness of somebody like Ronnie, for example. Legs were good, obviously the abs were great. Jay came in this contest in condition, there's no question about that. Now, it's pretty hard to deny Ronnie in this pose, sort of not fully flexed most muscular yet, but that's some pretty intense conditioning there, I would have to say. In terms of everything, and look at the big flaring lats. He has super hard chest, shoulders, arms. His legs aren't showing super massive amount of deep cuts, but he might not be flexing them super hard, but Ronnie looks good there. You don't really beat this in terms of conditioning. The glutes are obviously hard and shredded. Hamstrings are clearly distinct from the glutes, so it goes to show the very clear development of each of the muscle groups. The back is basically a Christmas tree, so that you don't really get much better shape than that. It's definitely a good shot for Ronnie. And this is Ronnie and Jay compared again. You see that Ronnie is a little bit taller, so he has some stature in terms of legs. Jay has huge legs. Jay is, of course, wide. Ronnie's arms are, of course, bigger. His abs are not quite as in condition as Jay's. His chest, I think, is a bit deeper and wider. It's just a bit more thickness for Ronnie here, but Jay looks very good. I don't know about these, when people say it's like this clear-cut victory for Jay. I don't know if I would say that, even though Jay was leading in the prejudging. That's important to note. But I don't know if I'd really agree that Jay just totally blew Ronnie away or anything like that. I wouldn't say that at all. Now, I think that this shot is a pretty clear win for Ronnie. Look at the back is wider, is more conditioned. The glutes are obviously in better condition. The hamstrings and the back of the legs look bigger than Jay's in this pose. Anyway, for sure, like if you go by the standard that the Mr. Olympia contest has been won by the back since probably as far back as Samir Bannout in 1983, making the argument for Lee Haney and Dorian Yates using the same standard, and if that is the standard that is followed, or at least was followed up until definitely Ronnie's era for sure, then this goes to Ronnie for sure. His back is better than Jay's. I don't think anybody ever debated that or doubted that in any way. A clear victory for Ronnie from the back, and that may have had a big role in the judges' mind in terms of having Ronnie win this contest. So Ronnie and Jay standing relaxed, and I guess you could probably give it to Jay because I think our eyes are drawn to the abs, but otherwise Ronnie's huge. Everything's big, the arms, the legs. He's massive, and his waist is small. It's smaller than Jay's, I would say, for sure, in terms of the dimensions. I would guess, if I had to. I can't really know for certain. I don't have a time machine, but it looks like it's smaller. And Ronnie did have a little bit of a problem with the stomach. That was just a fact, and that's present here. And Ronnie didn't have to gallivant around the stage like this. He could have hid this weakness by posing like this. It was like he was oblivious to his flaw here, even though you'd think he would have known about it. But his stomach was a bit of an issue. Granted, still a genetic freak. It's hard for any man to put on that much size and to have a stomach that small, I would say, but in bodybuilding terms, it does get judged down. Now, this pose, I would say for sure goes to Jay. You don't really beat those abs. That's pretty amazing. Granted, Ronnie does have flaring lats that are big, and I guess in a way they might be a bit more of a V-taper in that pose for him. But I think we look at the abs, and that's where our eyes go. And so in that sense, it goes to Jay. I don't know if Ronnie's completely posing it properly. That's hard to say. But I guess it's a matter of debate and preference, but I would give that pose to Jay for sure. Rear lat spread has to go to Ronnie. Now, granted, Jay's back is wide for sure, but in terms of conditioning and even size and even width, I mean, even though Jay is wide, even in terms of width, I think Ronnie hasn't beat, and thickness for sure, and just separation of the muscles. The glutes are huge, the hamstrings, and Kevin Leveroni's there too, and he looks big, and we'll see how he looks this year, but that's another story. Back double biceps, also Ronnie, I would say for sure. Jay looks really good there, but it's Ronnie. Absolutely, in terms of size, conditioning, and from top to bottom, including the glutes and hamstrings, definitely Ronnie. Front relaxed posed again, and one could argue Jay, because Jay's abs are better. Ronnie is posing his abs in this pose, but Ronnie has basically like 4 abs, or maybe you could argue that there's 2 at the top there, but pretty much 4. Jay has like 9, so, and the eyes do go there, so people would probably give that to Jay. I would say it's not just abs, and in that sense, I think Ronnie looks great also. His waist, I think, as I said, it's smaller. He looks really good. Jay Cutler, abs and thigh here, and how do you beat that? It does look really good. The abs are there and in great conditioning. The serratus, the legs, looks great. I think this pose speaks for itself and definitely goes to Ronnie. Ronnie's back was incredible. Back double biceps, again, this is going to be Ronnie's for sure. And I would actually say the entire pose is topped off on what really is a pretty small waist to boot, given his size, given his body weight at 265. I think even his waist is pretty small for that size. Side chest, I can't see Jay beating this. This is an incredible chest. Arms, shoulders, everything about Ronnie is strong here from top to bottom. His legs are huge. His chest is so thick and just you could, like, Arnold used to have a thing where you could put a wine glass on top of his chest, and Ronnie, you could do that too. Arguably, Ronnie had the best chest of all time, even better than Arnold's. You know, that, of course, there'd be some debate there, but Ronnie's chest was amazing, and Jay does not beat him in this pose, even though I have no direct comparison, but this is a great pose for Ronnie. And Jay Cutler in the back, in sort of mid-pose between the relaxed pose, I guess, and his rear lat spread, and there's no way around this. This absolutely goes to Ronnie, not Jay. So there's no doubt about that, in my opinion, anyway. But I would argue that this was a good contest for everybody involved. It was, the photos, by the way, are from muscletime.com, so you can check those out. But honestly, I don't know if I'd really be on the bandwagon that Jay won it for sure. Like, it was such an easy victory for Jay. Abs were better for sure, and in certain poses, and because, like I say, our eyes are drawn to it, yeah, that's a thing. But Ronnie was huge, and of course they tend to give it to the reigning champion unless he's completely knocked out. And I don't really think that he was completely knocked out by Jay. But having said that, they were pretty close, and Jay did come out of nowhere almost in this contest, so that was pretty amazing. And you have to consider also that Jay did place 8th the year before, so he kind of came out of nowhere to get up in the ranks to 2nd, so it did sort of make Jay the man he was this contest. Whether or not he beat Ronnie, I don't know. At the same time, he was trailing in the prejudging, and very rarely do people lose if they're winning the prejudging, so I don't know what happened there. But in terms of the bodybuilding contest being won by the back, it goes to Ronnie. In terms of you have to knock out the champ to win the contest, and it went to Ronnie, even though I don't know if that standard's a good one. But in terms of definitely the prejudging being sort of the competition in its entirety, I would say it went to Jay. But in my opinion, I don't know. I feel like they were pretty close. I'd give it to Ronnie, but it's close for sure. Jay did really well, but some pretty amazing physiques in that contest all around, and Ronnie had some tough competition that year. Anyway, hopefully I can continue to post videos more frequently, and thank you once again for watching. I will be back.